Okay, let's see. So here's what the deal is. We know that the original system, the social security number, we know that that doesn't work anymore. We know that because all of them very likely have not only been stolen, but sold on the dark web for every single American. So we then begin the process of asking ourselves, all right, if that's true and that's accurate and that's where this whole thing is going, what will come next? Because the social security number is back from the 1930s. That's what they had. That's what they used. That was their first digital identification system to figure out how they could tax you. Truly, the reason we have social security numbers is not for your safety. It's not really for your general welfare other than for social security benefits. They put that together as a federal ID system so that they could know who was out there, so that they could know who to tax, so that everybody would be paying their FICA taxes. It was the first digital ID that led to the first type of digital currency to find out who was out there to pay for the Social Security program. Now, Social Security numbers, just to get the terminology, and what this video is going to answer is what the future system will be that we use for identification of Americans in 2025. So not this year, but next year. Right now, just so you know what the actual terms are, we have what's called a federated identity system. A federated identity allows users to maintain a single identity across multiple systems and platforms. It's controlled by a trusted identity provider, which can offer enhanced security measures and better management of personal data. Of course, the trusted, although we shouldn't have, identity provider, is the federal government. Now, we have evolved with this into what's called a universal identity verification service. A universal identity verification service is managed by a consortium of public and private entities, and it could provide a standardized yet secure way to authenticate individuals. This service could use multiple layers of verification, including biometrics and cryptographic keys. Now, here's the thing with understanding all this. We are very quickly evolving away from traditional social security numbers. As you know, many of you are required to, just like the Social Security Administration did recently, to have what's called a special app on your phone that they use to log you in. Now, what's interesting is that the Social Security Administration got hacked in April, assuming they didn't know until a month, maybe 2 months later. You all probably remember over the past couple of weeks that you were hammered with emails from the SSA that you had to change how you log in to your My Social Security Gov account. That's because of this whole problem where your Social Security numbers were hacked. Now, at the end of the day, I want you to realize there are a lot of systems that can be used, a lot of categories of technology that are currently in use, and frankly, some that are so out there, I just didn't even realize they exist. I was having a little chat today, and then ironically, that chat was followed by a security expert where we didn't talk about it at all. But the idea, well, we talked about it a little bit. The idea was having people take a shot to get a DNA strand for a verification number is a lot of work for the federal government. And you got to find everybody, right? And that's infinitely harder to find those who are new to the country, who are new migrants, right? Because they're moving around, changing places, etc. So doing a shot just is not likely. But if the government were to produce potentially a pill that had a transmission-based system that could read your DNA code and then transmit that to some server as to who you are, what you are, etc., and then implant in you something that would be able to be used to validate you with a phone that's nearby, that would be a very, very secure system. If it only had the ability to basically be a little mini beacon inside your body, that would be something that would be very, very, very strong. Because think about it. We use all kinds of biometrics, right? We use having it look at our eye, figure out if that's us. It takes a picture of our face and says, boy, you look crap today. And that's okay too, phones. Phones can be snippy. Now, they also have things where it will read your fingerprint, unless, of course, you have this fingerprint. Man, that one, look at that puppy right there. Took some skin off of that. let me tell you something. When you have to charge the battery on a zero turn, you put the seat up, you put the charger on, you put the seat back down because you didn't realize that you put the charger on. You then sit on it, it then sparks, and that's where the gas tank is. And then you go and jump off and go, oh no, the zero turn is sparking. And then you run over and try to pull the leads off. Those leads have as much electricity leading through them as a welder. And when you grab them, it burns your fingerprint off. So we are working on identification today. With that said, whoa, not guilty with the $20 donation. That's huge. Howdy, howdy. I haven't seen you in a while. Let's see. He said, I haven't been here in a while. I was approved this week. Super congratulations. That's awesome. Took 5 months and a week first try by myself. Thanks for all your videos and hard work. That's excellent, good sir. I'm super happy the videos were able to help you. Let me put a little heart on there real quick. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Thank you, good sir. That's amazing. So here's the thing. We're going to go through the technologies that they might be able to use in 2025 to kind of fix this whole thing. Let's go through them. Number one, biometric identification. Biometrics are things like facial recognition, fingerprints, iris scans to go ahead and identify who you are. You need to have some sort of smartphone to be able to do this because you have to have that smartphone have a photo of you, scan your face, or be able to scan a fingerprint. Digital identity systems that use encryption and blockchain technology, they can go ahead and do tamper-proof ways of authenticating who you are. The main thing is we would have this for having something read something off of you, or maybe there's a chip inserted inside you that would be able to read your digital identity. There's also multi-factor authentication. So there's identity verification, combining something like a password with something else, some sort of like last four of this card, last four of that number. That way, basically, you can go ahead and link things up. Then there's tokenized identification. That's where you can replace social security numbers with randomized tokens, where basically when you want to access something, it will text you a token every time you want to access it. Then there's decentralized identity, the DID. Let's go through that real quick. That's where basically they use blockchain. Blockchain, as you guys know, is where there's no government figure or authorized licensed group like a bank. It's just everybody's phones have to validate everybody else's phone. So all the accounts have to talk to each other to validate, right, that actual transmission. That is the favored one. That's what most people like. However, I ask you this, and you let me know in the chat, you let me know in the comments, do you realistically feel, okay, that basically somebody like the government, the federal government, would allow you to go ahead and have a system that they can't manipulate the actual coding on? I mean, think about it. Do you think the federal government will ever allow any of you to have a system where they can't change the base fundamental core coding on it? And that's what I think. That's realistically what I think. Okay, so bottom line. Now, we have the next one, behavioral biometrics. It involves analyzing patterns in behavior, such as typing rhythm, navigation patterns, how you move your mouse on the computer, how you use your phone repetitively to verify your identity. Then there's advanced cryptographic methods. So they use basically different methods to protect your personal data, but they use, honestly, that one, it's never going to be used. I'm skipping that one. Then there's QR codes where you can basically scan things to show that you are who you are in the location where you are. Then there's dynamic identification numbers. That's where they change periodically. So like, let's say you have a password, but the password will change every week or every 3 hours or every 2 days. It's just constantly changing. And then you have to have a system that can talk to another system. That's actually what we're using right now, which are the apps. The apps on our phones that are like lock apps, they'll constantly come up with new passwords that have to communicate with another program that has that password being updated in that system as well. Then we have artificial intelligence and machine learning. AI and ML could be used to continuously monitor and analyze patterns of behavior or transactions to detect and prevent fraud in real time. That's where this whole thing is going. In fact, they literally made an entire movie, Dead Reckoning, by Tom Cruise about that, where essentially once an AI intelligence can get to the point where it can learn, take over other programs, assimilate everything, at that point, it'll be able to go ahead and modify, change, and manipulate actual human behavior just by changing little things in the environment that they live in. Then you have basically over here, zero knowledge proofs. What are those? Okay. Cryptographic methods that allow one party to prove to another that they know a value without revealing the value itself. Okay. So, like, let's say, and you see this. This is actually masonry right here. Zero knowledge proofs, where a mason will go ahead and know a catechism, and they'll be able to provide part of that catechism, and then the other person will provide the rest of that catechism, right, or at least a portion of it, because nobody's sitting there through the entire thing, and then that will be the thing that proves that one mason is another mason. Okay, what is this mark of the beast stuff? Jeez Louise, you guys keep putting that in there. Okay, next thing, smart contracts on blockchain. It's basically where you can manage identity verification. These contacts could automatically authenticate identity for various services, ensuring that only authorized identities can access sensitive information. You have a universal digital wallet, which is what we're using for a lot of our money right now, especially with things like Apple Card or the extension of what's coming up with PayPal. Let's see, Tuxedo Walter needs to wake up. I am tired. Oh, you mean with the Bible? I gotcha. Oh, because I burnt my finger with the zero turn. You guys are so horrifically sweet. I love you all. All right, next one. Distributed ledger technology is basically just blockchain. Okay. So bottom line is that that's could be used to create a secure, decentralized identity system where no single entity controls all the data. Government's never going to allow us to have that. Then we have proximity-based authentication. That's where you can use devices, smart wearable stuff, smart cards, etc. You're near something, so it allows you to access something. Then you have personal identity vaults, would allow individuals to store their identity-related information in a secure type of vault system, which is kind of what we have already with the Social Security numbers. So that's too broad of an option. We have contextual identity verification, can involve verifying identity based on the context of a request, such as location, time, or type of transaction that you want to do. Then there's government-issued crypto tokens. Could serve as a secure digital way to replace Social Security numbers, where basically for identity verification, a wide range of government and private sector applications would send you a token where basically, it's specific to you and only you could grab it. Although that's a lot of the technology we already have with our phones, reading a password. Those passwords kind of like their own little token. So then you have voice recognition systems. I've never found that to be, and I get it, all voices are special and all voices are different. I get that, but at the same time, I've never felt that was very secure. And then, of course, you have OTIs, which are the temporal one-time identifiers. Again, that's just another form of a token. That's basically where you're given something to exchange for access to some other program that only that other program will be able to notify and understand. So understanding all of this, you have to keep in mind there's layers to how your information should be used with one of these programs and how much it releases. Because like at the level one, at the very center of the nougat, you have the core identification features, right? So at the very center of the nougat, you have like your identification number strand, your Social Security number, although in this case, in the future, in 2025, it'll be based off of a DNA code that is specific to your genetic existence. And then you get to level two. So now we're just outside of that core. Level two is like descriptive details about you, right? So descriptive details about you are like your name, your address, your phone number, stuff like that. And then you get to level three, one more out. So you have the core, level one, and then level two. So now we're on level two. Now we get to non-descriptive info. And that's like, that you're over 18 or that basically you have, a particular type of car. It doesn't tell you exactly what age you are. It doesn't tell you exactly what type of car you have, but they're non-descriptive things that help to narrow the point as to who you are. And those are kind of like the ways that we could release information in these systems. You have your core stuff, like your identification number, and then you have your descriptive stuff, like your name. And then on the very outside, you have non-descriptive info. And the interesting thing about this is that no one really has trust for the government anymore. Although some people on the right and the left, on the extremes of those, still feel a strong connection to how their government wants them to do things and they'll follow it, etc. And the reality of that, which I think is very interesting, is that the government literally has statutes, they have rules, they have policies that require them to lie to you when, some government interest might be harmed as a result of you having the truth or you being placed in an area that might be counter to essentially their safety and production as a government resource. So what I think is going to happen over the next year, potentially 2 years, maybe 5 years. But what I think is going to happen is this whole system of having the phone represent instant tokens for instant passwords to match up with some other system, they'll use that over the next, I would say, year, things like that. But now that all the social security numbers are out there, they have to come up with something that is a new identifying factor specific to you. And we can't always trust these things to be our specific identifying factor. So what I'm thinking is they've already mapped out basically the DNA code sequence, all the code for all DNA. They will get to at some point, maybe not in a year, maybe not in 2 years, but within 5 years, they will get to the point where they literally give you your identification number. And your identification number is literally the numeric representation of your entire DNA existence. And the reason why they'll get to that point is because A, that is a massive number. That is a number string that you can't even see. It's that far. And B, it's one of those things where at the end of the day, I think genetically, as technology continues to go forward, as we get into new fields, right, when it comes to like transporting somebody or having to regrow a body part for them, or scan them and then have them go ahead and transport and exist somewhere else, and they destroy this body and create that body. And I know some of you are horrifically offended by that idea, but that's how it'll work, right? If we're on this planet, we want to end up on that planet, they will destroy the body we're in and recreate us over on that planet. The idea behind that is that I think ultimately we will be known by literally the DNA strand continuous code that exists in our body. Now, here's the question that I don't know the answer to, which is, how does our DNA strand evolve over time? And will that code evolve over time with it? Because remember, as we age, our DNA strand, and especially if you look on the little endings to them, actually wear out. They get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So what I'm thinking is one of those security features is that our genetic code will actually change a bit as we age and things like that, based off of that slow degradation of who we are. And so the idea is that that is its own version of essentially, us changing over time and our code, our sequence always changing. Now, how will machines be able to go ahead and know exactly what our code is at that moment when this goes on? Will they just take a blood sample from our finger? Will they be able to just scan our finger and it'll figure it out? Will it be something that we have as a chip in our arm, in our wrist, in our hand, or whatever? I mean, Elon's already working with chips in the brain that have been successful. It's going that direction. Now, I want to point out one important thing to you guys, okay? The future of identification, once they get to the point where they're implanting chips in our heads, the really scary part is that that chip in its infancy will be something that really can't make our body do anything. We're just feeding information to it. Then it will get to the point where it can control our body, right? Little functions, right? Give us ideas. Then it'll get to the point where it can actually download information, and all of a sudden, boop, we'll know how to go ahead and drive a car. We'll know how to fly a helicopter. We'll know how to fly a fighter jet, right? But at that point, it won't even matter because that stuff will all be drone based. And so the point is, we will be able to download information just like the Matrix. Then it will get to the point where the chip will be able to save us. So how like a car will avoid right now, like some sort of danger that's potentially coming its way. That chip in the future will be able to turn on when it senses danger. Like, for example, somebody throwing a punch at us, or for example, somebody being, doing something nefarious and they're trying to push a stone down, it's coming from above. When that chip reads it, it'll make our body react and get to safety. Not guilty. Thank you for the doggy treats. Super appreciate that. That's awesome. Putting a little like on there with a little heart. That's awesome. The doggies are actually with me here. They wanted to sleep for the rest of the night, but I was like, nah, we're going live. So they're in here with me. But also, I want to do Melinda M. Damon. Thank you for the $2 donation. That's absolutely awesome. I love the little fox. And I also see Lucinda Bragg with the $2 donation. Very, very cool. That's awesome. Very, very awesome. Thank you. So, here's the thing. We are getting away from social security numbers. And a lot of you will say, how dare you say that this is coming? It is. You can shoot the messenger and be mad at me for saying what's coming, but that's the reality. Once the social security numbers have been fully released for all Americans and a bunch of the immigrants that are now here, sucks to be an American, see? But the point is, once that happens, which it has, and you have been sold, like your identity has been sold on the internet. Once that happens, we know that there is no basic fundamental thing that we hold as an identifier that is sacred, that is used to communicate our information. There's none. And here's the best part. We really can't even sue the government. I've been studying the governmental immunity on this. I'm going to be doing a video on it. And as a result, we don't have the capacity, unless Congress gives us the right, to sue the federal government for essentially ruining our privacy. Even though we have a constitutional right to privacy, we can't sue them for something like this. And I'll do a video on it and explain it to you. It's not good. It's not good for us. It's good for them. So the thing is, considering all this, what I believe is going to happen, and then we're going to pop over to the next video. What I believe is going to happen is that America is going to give people an opportunity, as they put it, a quasi choice. And, if it's anything like, the jab before, it'll be like massively, massively pushed on us. You know what I mean? Like it was culturally unacceptable to not have the jab. You would like lose your job, so on and so forth. And, as somebody who comes from a lot of immigrants and refugees who have constantly been pushed from one nation to another, from Scotland to Germany, Ukraine, Austria, all around that part, and then ending up in America, because obviously World War II is not good for me. So as a result of that, I can say having true freedom in separation from the government's actual control over you is fundamental to me. Totally fundamental to me. Now, some of you will be angry by that. Some of you will say, you don't need your rights. You don't need this. You don't need that. You don't need this and that. Da, 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 da. I am a pro, concealed carry, pro, self-defense individual. I've always been that way because I know, because it's literally happened to my genetics through history many times, not just in World War II, but, take it all the way back to the earliest times of the pharaohs. I know that when I let somebody else choose what happens to me, I know that I end up in a bad spot. And I know this because their best interest is never my best interest. With that said, it is a slippery slope when it comes to identification, because ID ultimately becomes something that allows them to control what you transact. The next video we're going to be doing, we're going to be studying the Social Security number, how it started, the actual emergency message that was the executive order from the President of the United States. We're going to be studying that in the next video and going over how the Social Security number, when it was made, was the first form of a movement towards a digital identification. And then we're going to cover the actual presidential emergency message where he demanded and forced upon the American people the use of this in all agencies for the purpose of being able to track us and tax us for Social Security benefits. I will catch you at the next video. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos where we get to learn stuff together and have fun. I feel like we're having a Bill Nye the Science Guy in a Social Security kind of way day. So with that said, please remember, head to Google and type in Disability Resolution Florida or Disability Resolution Law Firm and throw some stars up there for me. I always love that. Please keep in mind I go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm playing with that right now to see if I'm going to go live on different days. Final thought, if you need me to figure something out with Social Security disability law, trying to get your disability benefits, there's a mini contract below where you can go ahead and fill that out to buy an hour of time, and then we put you on my hearing calendar. I will catch up with you in the next 10 minutes for the next video. Thank you to everybody who's a member. Thank you to everybody who's able to hang out. And thank you to those who donated. I see Diane Fernandez there. That's awesome. I will see you all at the next video in about 10 minutes. Thank you so much. And just head to the channel and I'll catch you there. Catch you soon. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.